Well, welcome to an interview with one of the three kings, one of the three wise men who presented those gifts to Jesus in the Bible. It's part of the story of Christmas, and I'm very lucky, very privileged to have one of those three kings here with me today to tell us, well, his side of the story.
Well, I'd love to be called a king. It's only because my father's called Don, but I'm not actually a king. I'm a magi. I think we're pretty important anyway.
Pretty cool.
But my profession is that we read the stars, we can discern things and predict things. So that's really my background.
Okay. And you don't live in Israel, you don't live anywhere near where these events took place, but in your home country, some distance away, you and your fellow wise men, you saw something in the sky and it gave you a bit of a surprise.
Very surprised. We never see things like this in my home country. We may see stars that will tell us when it's going to rain, or when we're going to have a good harvest. But it's the first time we've seen a star to tell us that there's going to be a king that's going to be born.
So this star is telling you that there's going to be a king, and it's kind of pointing you in the right direction to find this king.
Yes, it's almost like a compass. We have a compass. You probably don't know what a compass is in your country, but this star was able to show us and direct us where we should go, and it directed us all the way to Israel. But the problem was we didn't know exactly where in Israel we should go.
So you're looking for a king, you've gone to this other country of Israel,
Yeah.
You're looking for this king, and the natural place to go is to go to the palace, is to go to the home of the royal family.
Of course, we knew who was the monarchy for the land of Palestine, so we went to visit King Herod. We came to his grand palace, went to his court. Obviously kept us waiting for a little while. But he invited us in, and he wanted to know why we were there. So we told him. It says, we saw the star in the sky. We interpreted from our wisdom that there would be a king born. So we came to the palace, and we told him that we expected a king to be born. Now, at first, he was a little surprised. Because he is the king. And he didn't look like he was ready to retire anytime soon. But we told him that maybe he was a king that was from another land. But we felt that this king was special. So, all of a sudden he became nice. He showed so much hospitality. He fed us, he watered us. And he says, when you find this king, come back and tell me so that I can worship him also. I thought he was very sincere at first.
Okay. Now, Herod, he's the king there in Israel, and he doesn't know about this new king. You'd expect somebody in the royal family to know that there's been a birth in the royal family.
Yeah.
But he goes and consults his scholars, his religious people. They look it up in the scriptures, and they see that there will be a king, and he will be born in a little place, Bethlehem, right?
That's right. They have their own wise counsel, not as good as ours, but they were able to help us because we didn't know where he was going to be born, and yes, they were able to tell us it would be in Bethlehem. So then we felt we could make our way there, and there we were. And as I said, Herod the king said we should come back once we find him.
So you leave Herod's palace, you go to Bethlehem, with the promise that you're going to return to Herod with the baby's exact location.
Yeah.
When you get to Bethlehem, what do you find?
When we got to Bethlehem, it was a bit of an anticlimax. We found this little, very simple house. We went into the room. It was just one room. There was the parents and a little boy. He wasn't quite a baby. He was a little bit older then, maybe about one. Not quite sure. But when we came closer, I saw this child, and I thought there was an extraordinary presence around him. I thought I was the only one who felt it, but my colleagues felt it too. And we thought the only thing we could do when we saw this child was kneel and worship him. It was an extraordinary experience.
That's incredible. So it doesn't look like a king, not born in a palace. They were the servants and the pageantry and the glitz. But there's something special. And you and your colleagues gave this baby 3 gifts.
Yes. Of course, I didn't bring it with me because I already gave it to him. But I personally gave a gift of myrrh that was beautifully wrapped But for some reason, I felt that this was the gift that I should give this child. My colleague gave a package full of frankincense, very expensive, you know. But he felt that he should give that to this child, and it's what we use, just like in your country, we use it to burn incense to worship. And then finally, you wouldn't believe this, my last colleague gave some gold. I mean, I've got gold, but I'm not sure if I'd give that away. But when he brought it to this child, I thought, wow, maybe I should have brought some gold as well. But this was what we give to royalty, because we recognize that what we saw before us was truly a king.
So, the three presents you're bringing, myrrh, frankincense and gold, the myrrh would be a present you'd bring to a funeral. It says something about death. The frankincense is a gift to a god, an offering of worship. And the gold says this baby is a king. Well, the king bit we know, but the other two, that's really
What a
interesting.
mystery.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand.
And then, so you've given these gifts, now you're under a promise. You've got to go back and you've got to tell Herod where his fellow king has been born. So what happens next?
Yeah, on the way back, I mean, we were just overwhelmed. I mean, one of the things we were overwhelmed that no one else was visiting this child. It was just us. You would expect that there'd be a whole entourage, but we still felt we was in the presence of the king. So we felt very excited. And then on the way back, even though our attention was to stop back at the palace, we heard a voice. The star had gone, so it wasn't the star. But the voice, what we all heard, was that do not go back to the palace and go straight home. It was extraordinary.
So you didn't go back to Herod. You didn't go and tell Herod the location of this new king. Maybe, and we know with hindsight now, with what happened subsequently, Herod was going to see this new king as a rival. He was going to be angry and insecure and jealous. So we know that actually Herod's interest in seeing this king wasn't quite as pure. His motives weren't as good as you thought they were. So you head home, and you head home careful to go back by a different route. You're not going to be intercepted or caught on the way home. You're just slipping out of the country.
Yeah. What's extraordinary, we didn't know why. We just heard his voice and we were just obedient. But as you said, when we got home, a few weeks later, we heard of this carnage that was occurring in Judea. We thought, how extraordinary that children on the age of young boys especially were being killed. And then we realized it was Herod. And it was because he was trying to murder this child that was a rival to his throne.
So Herod wants to eliminate, to eradicate this threat. You're back at home now. How has your life changed since that day?
Well, in two ways. Well, first and foremost, we'll never forget that experience of being in the presence of a king. I don't fully understand how we would be a king. I don't even fully understand why we had to bring myrrh and frankincense. But it was an amazing experience I'll never forget. Secondly, I'm so grateful that we heard his voice that told us that we should not go back to Herod and tell him where the boy was. Because if we did that, Herod would have tried to kill this boy too. So we are eternally grateful. And I truly believe that that was the voice of God. Wow.
Thank you, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, sir, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure for this white man to meet this wise man. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.